I'm Kristian Ernest Mann. I was born in Riga, Latvia in 1996, the 24th of December, day before Christmas, and I'm currently 18. I live in Maryland in the United States, and I live currently in Hampstead within Maryland in Carroll County. Both my mother and my father decided to adopt children in late 1997 and in late 1998. My sister and I were adopted from Latvia and came over here in June. My sister's name is Tori, my mother is Anne, and my father is Bill. I have a cute dog named Crystal. She's been in our family for a very long time, and I believe it has been since 2001. I like to research World War II and the Cold War, and I love Russia. I currently work at Burger King, or rather, I was fired at Burger King just a short while ago. My personal experience with suicide includes suicidal thoughts being prevalent with me over many years, but I only acted on it a few times that I remember currently. I had some where I felt like acting on it and it got blurred in memory, so I'm not sure if it's only been two. But the times that I tried was generally trying to choke myself with a belt. And pretty much if you start, it's a very addictive behavior, and it's just wipes out every bit of pain that you have in your life, and you become sort of, at the time, you get a short high for probably about half a second or a second. If you're not fearing the pain, then you feel the pain less and get more focused on the endorphins. However, they're so short-lived that you have to continuously inflict pain in order to get the endorphin rush. And so that pretty much locked me into a cycle. 2015 is when I sort of went down on it. And once did a completely massive amount of cuts in one day. These were fairly deep because it was when I was in the phase of doing deeper ones. I had 260 total cuts in a day. I have been diagnosed personally with ADHD and anxiety, which is a horrifying combination if you know anything about it. ADHD medication afflicts anxiety, making it a lot worse than it is, and it also causes OCD in certain cases, which was mine. And so I was diagnosed with those two. Pretty much in total, the mental disorders in my life have been very prevalent. It's always either anxious or not anxious and hyper. It's awful. It gives a sense sort of like bipolar. It's not, but it is like that. It has the essential effect of manic depressive when you have anxiety and ADHD. Sometimes when I'm on medication, or was on medication, I stopped medication eons ago, but when I was on medication, I would feel like I was insane and know that I was insane. It was the worst torture ever. Writing has always been a huge passion of mine for quite a long time. I actually didn't know I could write until I was 14, and I discovered it after watching a movie. I very much like the Gothic culture, and it inspired me to write a poem about it. I started a story that year, and it's the first story and only story that I've actually finished. I have a beginning, middle, and conclusion. I sort of rushed the end, but the title of it was A Final Contract, mid to late 2013. I started the story that I think is my personal best work. It's called Lyrium. It's a psychological horror story. And this story was essentially the result of all of my mental problems being forged into a character. And so I wrote that story. It's still not finished, but it's getting there. I'm hoping to publish Lyrium one day. And that would be possibly my biggest dream, which would be to be a published author and have my story where everyone can read it and enjoy it. This scene details the history of Claudia's relationship with her mother and the source of her hearing about the Lorn. Claudia's mother had always warned her not to be alone for long periods of time. She was a very superstitious woman and never left the house without salt to throw over her shoulder. When Claudia got back from the first day of middle school, her mother had taken her to her own master bedroom and told her horrifying stories about werewolves, vampires, and Lorns, insisted that they were at school, and told Claudia to always be alert. When little Claudia had heard her full werewolves and vampires, she had never heard of a Lorne.